if you look on this final page, we're gonna hammer this out. It's super important. Noel's gonna share some testimony, but these are stories from the Gospels when Jesus was in the boat and he's calling the disciples into the boat. Now they were already fishermen, but Jesus was changing their purpose. The first one, what does it say? In Luke 5:1-11, Jesus said, "Don't be afraid." Write it down. Don't be. See, sometimes when you're on the water, it gets scary. I went on that love cruise with Ross and Travis. I was scared. Okay, it's a huge boat. I was scared. I'm like, no, I wasn't throwing up, but I was scared. And it was just looking at that water, how big, and it was really fun until I was scared. And so Jesus has to tell them, don't be afraid. Well, that was after the miracle catch of fish. Remember when he told them, cast your nets over here. They cast, and they just went crazy, and they freaked out. We're fishermen. That shouldn't happen. We're scared. And Jesus says, don't worry. I'm changing your whole purpose. I'm going to make you fishers of men. So I asked this question, Noel. When have you had an experience like that in your life where the Lord shocked you, taking you on mission, showing you something, and it actually frightened you, and he had to then come back and gather you up with those core desires that we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to this, and especially when we look at what actually happened here. They're fishermen. And what does Jesus do? He goes and meets them on their boats and says, throw your nets out. And they had this miraculous catch of fish. When they were fishing all night long, didn't catch anything, and that's when you fish, was at night. So he's telling them to do something crazy, something that doesn't work. And he says, now though, I'm going to make you fishers of men. He's changing their course. And it's happened multiple times in my life where there's a change of course that I didn't expect. And these changes of course in our lives really throw you for a loop. It could be a relationship ending. It could be a job change, a career change. It could be being relocated when you didn't see it coming. I know the first one, and this is when I was young, but it was very formative because I was young. Well, I was in college as a young man, and when my athletic career came to an end, it was very unforeseen the way it happened. And it was very powerful. And anyone, when you hang up the cleats or the high tops, as it were, Brian, when you step off the court or a field, that's something you've been doing for a long time. It's a part of your identity. And what's really happening there in these moments, in the choppiness of the waters, is that your identity is being shifted. And that's scary. And that's why Jesus says, don't be afraid. When I finished playing, I didn't know who I was. And I didn't really know why my heart was changing. And I didn't know why things were ending the way they were. And then I went to this crazy place that was so different from my college experience. And it's like everything in my world was being turned upside down. I was 21 years old, so still young. But what happened in all of that was the Lord spoke the language I knew. Literally someone at our church, this was in Brookings, so I'm at SDSU, and someone at our church spoke prophetically over me while we were still college kids and still playing football and still athletes. And he actually used words that were athletic metaphors. But he said, God's going to do something different in your life. And I said, okay, well, that must mean he wants me to throw a lot of touchdowns next year for the Jackrabbits and probably go on and do that in Canada, if not in the NFL, somewhere, because that's what I do. That's my identity. That's what I want to do. And it all came to an end, very unforeseen. And it shook me up, and it changed the trajectory of my life. Now, there have been other things that have done the exact same thing. The things I thought were one thing and they weren't. Our marriage, we've been through, we live in a world of easy divorce. And certainly my wife Vanessa and I have been through a lot of valleys that many marriages have ended for a lot less than we've been through. Those things are shocking. Shocking. The waters all of a sudden are choppy and you can't, I'm just gasping for air, trying to keep alive. But in the midst of that, the Lord has said to me, all those transitions in my life, professional ones, personal ones, changes in relationships, people that have been close to me, one of the closest people in my life, running away, going off the cliff, changing my life, changing the directory of what I'm doing, changing everything about my day-to-day existence for a season. The Lord's saying in the middle of it, don't be afraid. I'm with you. And the interesting thing is when we look back on those times that were such times of chaotic flux, we can look back later, 10 years later, and say, oh my goodness, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be the person I am today. If that catch of fish didn't happen, we would not be fishers of men, literally changing the world, said Peter. the world wouldn't have been changed the way it is. It's these shocks that shake things up. That's what a shock does. It's shaking it up. And as hard as that is, because we fear change, because we want the security of things being the same, it's those moments of change, those things that seem so cataclysmic, that put us on a new trajectory towards health. And that's been a continuing story in my life. Change, repeated change when you don't think it's going to happen. And, hopefully we have a lot of years left, and we'll continue to see more of those. Those of you who have more decades on me, you probably look back and say, yeah, these shocks keep happening because that's where life is lived, out on these choppy waters. But he is with us in this lifeboat. He's with us, and he's putting people in our paths through those cataclysmic changes that we wouldn't have bumped into otherwise that transform us.